Hello, everybody. I'm Ilka Olajos, a student of a master class. First of all, I would like to ask my I Was a Stranger series. I made it during my bachelor studies. I start to find some Hungarians who moved to abroad but came back because of they feeling they are a stranger there. I sat down with them, heard them stories, and after I asked the subject what they miss them from home or they bring it to abroad to remembering from home. After I use the most important part of the task and compare it with the pictures. A lot of people go out to London with no purpose, they just run away from here. It could have been a perfect fairy tale story, but I was able to start living at home. Who think is it insanely good? He's lying to himself and he becomes a slave to the system. I didn't waste time outside, but rather again, I found myself. I didn't have to give up an existence, but a dream and freedom. The next series named Nostalgia. I made it during the Bachelor too. Nostalgia series has two parts. First, I took photos about my aunt, who moved back her hometown, Kisújszállás, when she was 60 years old. She lived in her memories there. Second part is a research about how change the past. I used archived family pictures with my photos and made digital montages. It was helpful to understand my aunt, why she left to move back there. My next series named Oblivion. I started it during the bachelor studies, but it's still in process. The memories are fade and forgotten, but with monuments we can preserve a piece. In Hungary, it was mandatory in 1917 to erect monuments in all cities for World War I heroes, soldiers, mothers, and doctors. I made multi-exposures shots of these monuments, visualizing the passage of time. In quarantine series made during my master's studies, I made it in the first lockdown in Hungary. I started photographing myself as a kind of diary. I wanted to portray situations that are not ordinary, familiar sense, but the confusion of the days spent in quarantine due to the virus. Rather, these images show a spiritual transcript of how the situations affects me. We can also see this as a kind of therapy that has helped me more forward day by day. And in the end, I made a photo book at home with the Japanese book binding. And my last, and my last series, what I wanted to show you is the Housing Estate Differently series. This is my master diploma project. The ambience of housing estate can be examined in two ways, from an architectural and social part. Like the blocks of apartment houses, cut a slice out of space, and then the wall slice them apart, creating internal space within them. Just like a never-ending division process, appear the segments of society under my microscope. They assumed residential communities, families, individuals, and foreshadows isolation. Still exploring the past, the act of recollection is a kind of an approach, how through the dominant architectural structures of an area, we can reach the place and the time when these engrams were created. It bears a unique state of balance, the feeling of isolation and belonging together at the same time. It bears a unique state of balance, the feeling of isolation and belonging together at the same time. I present and visualize the absurd panels world made with montage and collage techniques. I started to try montages with the details, and with this montage show my views about these buildings. Thank you for your attention. Bye.
Hi everyone, I am Lola Eördögh, and this was my first semester at MOME Photography MA. So I will show you my work. I share my screen. So first of all, I want to show my BA diploma work, because this is a very similar method to the work I do now in the master years. In this project, I directed and photographed my dreams and my childhood memory, and from my childhood memories. So now I work on this series. In my series titled "My Good People, My Gut People," I reconstruct scenes from the history of my parents, scenes that heavily impacted my future as a child. With the help of photography, I prove the importance of forgiveness. I believe that people are inherently good, even if they make bad decisions, hurt one another, carry their grievances. So I decided to deal with the story of my parents from the beginning of their relationship to the present day by working through my own memories and childhood experiences. As our lifestyle was different from many families of my age, I often find myself in also visually absurd situations that keeps me wondering. I directed and photographed stories that shape the way I connect people, my visions of living, so my whole personality. Making one photo takes quite a long time. After I pick a memory, I talk about it with my mom or dad, depending who takes part in it. Usually the conversation shapes the memory itself. But during the planning, I try to focus on my first intuition, because my goal is to picture my feelings through the photo. So before I start planning the location and the composition, I make sketches to get closer it visually. After the shooting, show the photo to my parents to talk about it. It's also essential in the progress. I'm still working on the series. I'm planning on organizing many photo shoots for the spring and the summer. When I started working on the series in September, I saw I would spend the next 2 years working on this project, so I am at the beginning. Exploring our past through my memories and their stories helped me see them and us as a family more clearly. I do believe in the power of forgiveness. I think we have to deal with our traumas that we bring from our family in order to start life with someone else, to become aware of our unconscious, to understand our feelings and behavior in certain situations, and also to be able to see our parents as a good people. So thank you for your attention.
Hi, my name is Franciska Legát. I'm a first-year master student, and I'm going to talk about my ongoing series, Hellish Eden. This series is about the feeling of nostalgia, my relationship with the past I haven't lived in yet, which plays an important role in forming my identity as well as in our current society. It's important to know that the Hungarian communist regime from the 70s wasn't as strict as in most countries in the Eastern Bloc. And however, there were shortage from different products and people only could go abroad in every third year. Everyone had a job and life was safer and more predictable in some way. So people from my parents and grandparents' generation often look back to, with nostalgia to this era. So this is my mood board. My purpose was to depict with this era, not with the aesthetics of archive photographs I showed, rather with an unusual documentary approach and with using the aesthetics of communist propaganda posters. Based on my parents' stories, I wanted to capture fictional situations that could have been possible in the past. And however, these are personal stories, they can represent how subjective the past is and how generations coming after each other can shape the history. My parents had a really different background. My mother grown up in a rich miner town. My father was a part of the underground subculture in Budapest, and he had often had a conflict with the police. And based on their stories, I wanted to depict the duality and absurdity of the era they grow up in. And as I mentioned, this is an ongoing project, and in this semester I was rather focusing on my mother's stories. And I was asking her about her experiences and memories, and I had realized that my series is rather about my family and the anxiety which was always a part of my family than the socialism in general. And the visuality of Hungarian communism and its absurdity is a kind of background of the story I try to tell. And my main questions are how things had happened in my family affected on me, how socialism affected on our current society, and how our generation can form the... Fú, de belezavartam. And how our generation can look back to the past. And thank you for watching.
Horthy Miklós katonája vagyok, legszebb katonája.
There is a so-called thesis under the social identity loss theory, which says due to the everyday uncertainty of modernism, people can reach the state of character corrosion where they lose their identity, the self-perception weakens, and may appear uncertainty in self-estimation. In my series, the Hungarian nationalist identity stands in the center, and the structure of it which has started to devour and fill up the everydays in my country. At the beginning of the project, I had a preconception which was that the conservative and nationalist classes of our society are prompted to react by the democratic and liberal arrangement and social transformations. At the beginning of the project, I had a preconception which was that the conservative and nationalist classes of our society are prompted to react by the democratic and liberal arrangement and social transformations. By the time, as the project progresses, from the perspective of general demonstration and interpretation, I turn to a more personal approach that analyzes my position against the popular nationalism and the alt-right scene in my society. In a way, I see my inability to identify with the leading ideological view as a base point in the project. I feel rootless, and I do not have a strong bond between me and the spirit of my nation. That's why I identify myself in the way of defining oneness and otherness, so whether I still do not know what I am or who I am able to tell what or who I am not. My photo series called Untitled forms by the extension of the national collective that is demoted to the level of prose. The pictures are the subjective perceptions and visual recreations of this phenomenon. The generative attitude of mind parallelly frames the bricks of the Hungarian nationalist identity and debates the legitimacy of the ideological perspective, also the priority of it. It is a strange phenomenon to see praising the past and the history, and to be built up from it in an era when we are more needed to focus on the future issues, and where the function of a unit greater than the nation would be more effective than chauvinism. Through the pictures, I emphasize the distance between me and my topic, the classification of oneness and otherness, schematized mentality, my subjective skepticism, the redefinition of sentimentality for the Hungarian nation experienced in the ordinariness, my self-identification in the present, the historic nation mind, and the pursuit of the loss in the existing.